WEC International is an interdenominational mission-sending agency of evangelical tradition which focuses on church planting, reaching vulnerable children, Christian education, missionary education, tea and literature production. WEC emphasizes the importance of shared life in a local church as a vital expression of Christian life. WEC prioritizes the planting of churches among indigenous people groups and unreached people groups, who have little or no access to the gospel of Jesus Christ. History. WEC was founded in 1913 by Charles Studd, the cricketer turned missionary. Studd was one of the Cambridge band, also called Cambridge 7 members of Cambridge University who offered themselves for service under the China Inland Mission as a result of a visit by the American evangelist D.L. Moody to the campus in 1884. Studd spent several years in China and a time in India before going on in his 50s to establish and lead the Heart of Africa mission. Although broken in health, Studd said, "If Jesus Christ be God and died for me, then no sacrifice can be too great for me to make for him." The Heart of Africa mission changed its name to Worldwide Evangelization Crusade. Later, recognizing some misunderstandings with using the word crusade, the mission was renamed as Worldwide Evangelization for Christ. The Heart of Africa mission, WEC International, was started as part of what missiologists call the second wave interdenominational missions to the continental heartlands. The Heart of Africa mission was changed to Worldwide Evangelization Crusade in 1919 when Mr. Gilbert Barclay, who married Studd's daughter Dorothy, became home overseer. He took the position on the condition that the organization have a worldwide title, scope and work. Recruitment of missionaries began immediately, and in 1922 WEC entered Amazonia. WEC was the parent organization, and individual fields were permitted to retain their own subtitles, so the new field became Heart of Amazonia. By the time of Studd's death, the Amazonia field had 16 missionaries with headquarters and mission stations in 3 people groups. Central Asia was entered next, then Arabia, followed by West Africa, and then Colombia. South America. A branch of WEC International was formed in the U.S. in 1939 and is located in Fort Washington, PA. The Heart of Africa mission was begun in northern Congo in 1913 by Charles Thomas Studd and A.B. Buxton, beginning at Nyangara on the banks of the Uele River. After the death of the founder in 1931, his missionary colleague Norman Percy Grubb was appointed General Secretary. Grubb built the mission up from 30 missionaries to 820 countries and encouraged the establishment of the Christian Literature Crusade as a sister mission in 1941. After retirement in 1965, Grubb lived at the WEC U.S. headquarters in F.D. Washington, PA, writing extensively and traveling from there until his death in 1993. In 1941, the Christian Literature Crusade was begun out of the ministry of WEC by Kenneth Adams. It aimed to open Christian book centers in all lands where there was a call for them in to serve existing churches and missions with Christian literature, as well as gospel literature worldwide, radio worldwide, and a survey and research department. WEC has been influential in the movement for countries once known as missionary receiving lands to become missionary sending lands. WEC International missionary Leslie Briley visited Brazil in 1962 to survey that land for its missionary sending potential. Later, in 1972-73, he and Bob Harvey, also of WEC, began touring Brazil giving seminars promoting the idea. The idea has since matured in Brazil and spread to many other countries. Many indigenous mission agencies were formed as a result, and Briley formed a global strategy for launching mission movements in non-Western countries. Another WEC missionary, Phyllis Kilbourne, launched a sub-ministry of WEC called Rainbows of Hope, geared to children at risk around the world. This grew out of her seeing the devastating effects of the 1990 to 1997 civil war in Liberia on the children of that country. She later started Crisis Care Training International as another department of WEC to offer training for Christian workers dealing with children in crisis. WEC today. WEC International is a Christian mission agency committed to seeing Jesus Christ known, loved and worshipped among the peoples who have yet to hear or have opportunity to respond to the gospel. Those ethnic groups referred to by Joshua Project as the remaining unreached peoples are often the world's poorest and sometimes the most marginalized. WEC's members today aim to address this imbalance by seeking to prioritize the last ones to hear. WEC International has over 1,800 active workers from over 50 nations working in multicultural teams in over 18 nations. WEC's international headquarters are in Singapore, and the current international directors are Dr. Lewis and Susan Sutton. Policy. C.T. Studd, the founder of WEC, said their objective is the evangelization of all the unevangelized regions of the world. More recently, the purpose of the organization was listed as to bring the gospel to the remaining unevangelized peoples with the utmost urgency, to demonstrate the compassion of Christ to a needy world, and to inspire, mobilize and train for cross-cultural mission. WEC states that it only knows two strategies: love God and love your neighbor. WEC work as cross-cultures, as servants, as learners, as friends. They receive much from the people among whom they serve. They seek to demonstrate, in deed and word, the love of God and present an invitation to follow Christ and know His transforming power within their lives. WEC International states that it believes that God can provide for the needs without standard fundraising, and that He is able to tell His servants to give the needed money. Hence, the policy is to ask only God, and not people, to supply the needs, a policy laid down by the founder, C.T. Studd, who gave away his considerable wealth before beginning missionary work. Norman Grubb, the successor to C.T. Studd in Concord, wrote that the mission made no appeals for funds, took no offerings at meetings, guaranteed missionaries no fixed salaries, and incurred no debt from the beginning. Funds that were received were divided equally among the missionaries. Neither C.T. Studd nor his wife ever took any money from the mission.